Hello everyone, welcome back to the comprehensive guide to Guan Yu. Now, this is going to be a bit unusual for an episode because one of the members of the enemy team leaves the match, but the enemy team doesn't surrender. So we'll eventually be doing a follow-up episode on this because this isn't going to contain everything that I want to necessarily talk about because at one point it becomes a rather unfair match. I'm uploading this for two reasons. First off, I can kind of lay down some groundwork. Second off, I do want to commemorate the players who stayed and didn't surrender. That takes a lot of guts. And I want to have this kind of kicking around just so that way somebody out there knows that the remaining four put up a great fight. So there's kind of two reasons for this. But we are still going to be talking about playing Guan Yu in the support role, which again is one of my favorite roles to play Guan Yu in. Okay? It just is. I don't know why. I think it's just his kit. Maybe it's because I'm a support main and Guan Yu was my first warrior and I just adapted him into my favorite role. I don't know. It's just how I prefer to play him. Now, there's a couple of things as a support that I'm looking at here. First thing I'm looking at is the damage types of the enemy. We've got 3 physical, Loki, Xiblanque, and Hercules, and we have 2 magic, Janus and Jormungandr. Now, right now, I am assuming Loki is jungle, Hercules is solo. It turns out that is not true. Turns out that's reversed. There are ramifications to this that I will be considering when I'm playing support, and I'll talk about those when I become aware of it in match, but just know ahead of time that that is something that changes a little bit of how I approach the strategy, not necessarily my build. My build remains the same, but how I approach the strategy here is a little different. I'll talk about it extensively as the match goes on. Now, other than that, there's not really anything else that's standing out to me as a support that I really should be concerned with. We've got fairly standard comps here. There's no one that's particularly tanky. There's, anything like that. So it's a fairly standard composition here. That was a wild time. Let's go on ahead and zip forward 30 seconds here. So, of course, there's 3 physical, so I'm going to be going for Sovereignty this match. And again, just to kind of recap, Gauntlet of Thebes is not something I typically build. This is just me throwing down my ward to make sure our purple doesn't get stolen. But I don't typically build Thebes on Guan Yu because you have to understand that even though I'm playing Guan Yu as a support and he is a good support, he's still a warrior compared to the usual guardians. My baseline physical protections aren't quite what I would like them to be, so building Gauntlet of Thebes is even riskier than normal, and I also know that Jormungandr is a pain in the ass in the first 5 levels because his auto attack does large quantities of damage to the minion wave early on. Very difficult to overcome, so I know I don't have the time. Same thing with Xiblanque. He can poke you while clearing the wave with his splitting bolas. It's an absolute nightmare. It's generally not going to be worth the effort most of the time to try to build Thebes, especially against that kind of duo lane. We need to turn this up slightly. I actually noticed this. We'll bring this up to 25. Yeah, that's good. So, again, I'm winding up specifically to get my AoE part of my chain. Guan Yu is one of those few supports where you want to be tanking that green buff. Normally, let me actually pause this for a minute. Normally, when you are support, a lot of the times you let the ADC, if they're ranged, shoot first, so that way they pull the camp aggro to them, right? Normally that's what you want to do. However, for certain supports, Sylvanas, when I covered him, he's one of these. I'll be covering him again in the future. Guan Yu is the same. If you've got an AoE in your attack chain, generally speaking, you want to be the first to hit that so you can time up your attack. In Sylvanas' case, it's that way you can take advantage of his passive, but in Guan Yu's case, he has that AoE third hit on his attack chain. You want to take advantage of that. It helps you clear a little bit faster if you can get that timing correctly, as I did here. That just takes practice, right? So we're coming in here, just going to clear the purple buff. Now I'm expecting some trouble here because, of course, as I mentioned earlier, Xbalanque and Jormungandr are an absolute nightmare to face off against in duo lane. So we're going to try to clear this wave really quick. We do get there early, so I try to aggress into this. The Xbalanque activates Belt of Frenzy really early, probably because he knows he has that. He's got the wave clear advantage. He stops to try to attack Amazon Cobb a little bit here. I back off a little bit because I'm taking a little too much damage. And I'm trying to now get them off of Amazon Cobb here because we're obviously taking a lot of damage. Now, would I check the scoreboard really quick? I'm not sure if you saw that because that was a really quick check. Let me see. So I'm taking a lot of damage. I'm pulling back here to check specifically. I'm taking a lot of damage. I want to know why. My initial theory is that Jormungandr has built the Gilded Arrow, which some Jormungandrs do to do even more early game damage with their auto attack. He's actually built Warrior's Axe. So while I am taking more than the usual amount of damage, it's not the egregiously grotesque amount of damage that I would be taking with Gilded Arrow. So that is kind of a relief also. This is going to come back around and really hurt him in the late game. It starts hurting him pretty quick in general, and I'll point out when that happens. You'll see it, and hopefully with that context, I'll be able to explain to you why Warrior's Axe isn't a great idea as a support most of the time. So, anyways, I get Amazon Cobb safe. Xbalanque has to back off because he's taken a fair amount of damage here. We're trying to clear the wave again. I'm pulling in that minion aggro because I can at least handle it a little bit better. Now, this is actually a mistake on my part a little bit here. I pulled the minion aggro too early. Amazon Cobb hadn't thrown his wave clear yet. I should have waited until he had. He had to go really far out of his way in order to hit the wave with his second ability there. That's on me. I forgot about that. I thought he'd already thrown it in because I wasn't apparently paying enough attention to his abilities. That was a mistake on my part. It's a relatively minor mistake, but you'll see here he takes a lot of damage as a result of my error. In fact, he uses Aegis here to make sure he survives. He's almost dead. He could very easily have died there. I actually engaged Xbalanque here specifically to get Xbalanque more off of Amazon Cobb, but my error caused Amazon Cobb to have to get a little bit more out of position than he probably would have liked. So at this point, we're on the back foot. That's fine. I know at some point we're going to be able to make this, make a comeback here. We're going to be able to turn this around as long as we don't die. So that's really my only chief priority here is not dying, right? Warrior's Axe, the big problem with it is that it doesn't have as much sustain as Sentinel's Gift or even War Flag. That sustain is quite slow. It's fine in solo lane because you're generally building very specifically to sustain, but as a support, you're not necessarily going out of your way to do that. You're sure some of your items do have some natural sustain in them, but you're not necessarily going way out of your way to build that sustain. You can see he's almost out of mana here, and as long as he isn't hitting us consistently with his Warrior's Axe proc, he's not getting that mana back, right? He just does not have that much mana regeneration. Now I back off and let Amazon Cobb tank this for a little bit because I'm low on health. He's got more health. I need the healing from Sentinel's Gift. We get that. And at this particular point, we can push forward a little bit because Amazon Cobb is probably aware of the same thing that I am. I was just double-checking how many potions they had. That's actually specifically what I was checking because if you look really quick, I take a moment. I'm looking at, does Jormungandr have potions? No, he does not. He's not working towards Heart Ward. At this particular point, Xbalanque has come out by himself. There is no Jormungandr, so I am assuming at this point that Jormungandr has backed while in that jungle area. I'm also checking Xbalanque. He's got some mana potions, so he's got that much, but he doesn't have any health potions. So any damage we do to him is likely to be rather substantial. Also, really quick, he does have Death's Toll, so there is potential for him to self-heal that way, but it is something that I can keep in mind, and maybe we can front-load some damage on him and get him to pull back a little bit. So our first order of business is to clear the wave. Amazon Cobb unfortunately misses his wave clear. I go on ahead and initiate anyways, because, again, I'm pretty confident Jormungandr is not present. I think he backed. Amazon Cobb hits Xbalanque a whole lot. Xbalanque goes back a little bit. Great, I ward fairly aggressively because we're pretty far up. Here's Jormungandr. Yes, indeed, he did go back. Now, he had to go back because, actually, I don't need to pause this for this. He had to go back very specifically because he has Warrior's Axe, which isn't giving him the mana he needs. I'm trying to get Amazon Cobb not to get hit by this. he gets hit by it anyways because he doesn't back up. The reason why I was concerned about that is because I didn't want Xiblanque to, come after him and potentially kill him. I actually almost die with that dash through because I'm just trying to slow down Xiblanque. They don't chase because I would take them too far out of lane. They lose farm. That's not really what they can afford. I come back in because I kind of figure Sentinel's Gift will get me to the sustain. Maybe I can tempt Jormungandr into doing something stupid. Possibly. It doesn't turn out that way. I also have Shell up still, so I wanted to make sure that if Amazon Cobb was initiated on, that he would have the Shell available so he could maybe get out of an ugly situation. At this point, I'm going back because I know the Jormungandr went back, so I actually have the opportunity to do so pretty effectively because Amazon Cobb can't go up. We're still on the back foot. We're still under tower, so by the time I come back, it should be okay. I also backed. This is partially why I backed at that specific moment, is because the health buff has been dropped by our Cleodna. So at this particular point in time, I want to go back. I want to grab that and be able to contribute a little bit more to left lane. Amazon Cobb is solo clearing. That's great. It's going to help him catch up to the Xiblanque, who he is behind by. Now, there's other disadvantages to Warriors X I'll talk about later on. They're not apparent yet. But right now we're just clearing the wave because they're gone. I want to see if we can get the Scepter because now we have this kind of lead. It's coming up soon. It's fine. But this is really where the lane starts to turn a little bit because we have more inherent... Well, I have more inherent sustain than Jormungandr. Jormungandr has to go back more often than I do because he just won't have the mana. In fact, you can see him approaching here. He does not have much mana left. He's got very little mana. We grab the Scepter, off we go. I don't care about the poke. I'm the support. I have Sentinel's Gift. Whatever. Now, I'm willing to go a little bit forward here, and I actually take an aggressive forward position here, specifically because both of them are very nearly out of mana. And I know Xiblanque can't use his split bolas without mana, so this is going to probably wind up pretty good for us if we can just turn around and make this work, right? So I hit level 5, which is all I was really waiting for, because we don't stand a chance without it. Without both of us having ults. So I go on ahead, and I'm just waiting for Amazon Cobb to kind of be ready to go in. He still isn't. He's still fairly hesitant, so I just go in. Right, I'm hoping he catches up. He doesn't really, of course, because he's Amazon Cobb, he's got no way to move forward. I back up. I initiate. I say I initiate, but really I was just getting poked there. Amazon Cobb backs, and he was backing here because he saw Xiblanque back, so he knows he has a free shot at doing so. At this point, I'm just getting some poke on Jormungandr and trying to clear the wave, because Amazon Cobb isn't here, so he's not going to get access to this wave. If I leave, Jormungandr will just get our wave and we'll get nothing, so I just take the wave. One of those very rare moments where both supports are just left in lane and just clear the wave, because what the hell else are they going to do? And I'm moving on to mid lane here. Now, I'm moving on to mid lane because at this particular point in time, the Amazon Cobb needs to catch up, right? I'm hoping to lure the Jormungandr away very specifically, so that way, it can just be a 1v1. Amazon Cobb can potentially farm his way to catching up to Xiblanque, and everything is going to be, great. I'm going to arrive in time to help out Zeus. We counter-initiate on him. This is where I realize, by the way, that Hercules is their jungler. Now, what this means for me is that there's a higher risk of the solo lane, in this case Loki, rotating out into mid lane. Because, of course, Loki has a higher baseline movement speed. He can turn invisible, which boosts his movement speed further. I also know that because Hercules is their jungle, he's a little slower than Cleodna. So, that Hercules' death there is actually a really big deal for our team. Because this means that Hercules, who already by nature is slower than Cleodna is at a baseline level, not only is he slower, but now he's died. He's now a level behind because of that death. And Cleodna can really capitalize on this, right? So that's pretty big for us. Yes, Zeus died for it, but Zeus was already ahead of the Janus at this point, so it's not as big of a deal. Now, Cleodna initiates on the Janus. I don't entirely blame her. It is a mildly risky, but it's, it turns out fine. I'm right there to defend her if she needs. I kind of think originally that she's going to gank left lane, but she doesn't, then I want to take the oracles at this point, but I don't want to take them without her. I'm afraid that they will get stolen from me by either Jormungandr or Hercules if I try. She decides she is going to gank left lane, but simply because Jormungandr enters the lane, so I just, go in for that. She picks up Sheep Blanque. I'm initiating on this. I'm expecting the ult. Here's the ult. Because I hadn't seen him use the ult. I knew he was at least level 5, so I kind of figured this was going to come in. Now, I turned back around because I actually think he's going to reinitiate using his ult. I think he's going to capitalize on his ult and attack. He doesn't. It's at this point that I'm like, off I go. There's nothing else we can do here. We're not likely to kill him under tower without great sacrifices, and Zeus needs help in mid lane, and I would like to at least avenge him. I accidentally say good game here. That is not my intention. I'm trying to fix this. I meant to say that's too bad. I mispressed. We initiate on Hercules. He dies again. Again, this is pretty big news for us, right? He may have just killed Zeus to get a level, but now he's dead, and now he's still down a level, and Cleodna can theoretically go back and pull further ahead, which is great news for us. And that's the problem with, just as a brief aside, we'll talk about this in future episodes, that's the real problem with non-assassin junglers, really, is that mistakes like that really cost you more than they normally would if you were just an assassin, right? So again, Jormungandr and I are here just clearing waves because the two supports were left in lane. What the hell else are we going to do, right? And he is just trying to clear that wave. I'm going to go in here and help Zeus with his buff. And then I'm going to back afterwards, because I don't have much mana left at this point. Heal him up, get him out of here. He goes right off to lane, that's fine. I get my sovereignty, I work on my Pridwin. Off we go. Now, I'm seeing that Sheep Blanque is pressing on purple. I'm going to go and try and do something about that, especially since I just saw Jormungandr cross through the Oracle area and is likely going to gank Amazon Cobb. So it is something that I want to deal with, right? So, here we are. And I'm just trying to capitalize here. Really, at this point, I'm just defending the obelisk and hoping I get reinforcements. That's basically what I'm doing here. Amazon Cobb initiates, Jormungandr ults. I'm going to go onto Sheep Blanque. Now, the reason I go onto Sheep Blanque here is because there's nothing I can do with Jormungandr, right? He is ulting, he comes back, and he saves Sheep Blanque, because I absolutely would have killed Sheep Blanque there. And then I see Zeus coming in, so I stall Hercules out, and here we go. We've got people coming in. I'm going after Jormungandr, because I know he's got no options. And Cleodna grabs both of them, which is fantastic. And I know Hercules is back here, but I don't have any mana. So at this point, I'm just trying to get out here, especially since I just get slapped by Janus, right? I need to leave. There's nothing else I can do here. No mana, no health, diddly squat. I try to tell Cleodna this before bailing, but I don't know if she really heard me or listened. Maybe she heard me and didn't care, because she's still fighting Hercules in the jungle there. I'm rushing over there to try to save her, because she's half dead at this point. Hercules has the advantage, and if she gets killed by Hercules, he catches back up. But she is able to make the escape, without any help, which is great. I'm going to defend mid lane until Zeus gets there, right? And, I'm just auto-attacking here for that specific reason. You'll notice I did not use Tower Assault. It's because I knew Zeus was coming in. I didn't want to steal any of the minions. I wanted the assists. I wanted him to get the farm. That's why. Here's the jungle buff. I don't know why he just doesn't come in and grab the jungle buff really quickly. Possibly he's concerned about the wave. I'm kind of concerned that Jormungandr is going to initiate on him, which Jormungandr does not for some bizarre reason. So Zeus just solo clears the wave, that's fine. Not ideal, because I take a little bit more damage from this than I would have liked, but it's, fair enough. Go on ahead and move to mid. Now, I'm looking to push down the catapult here. I'm warding up here. But I changed my mind. Zeus is already rotating left, so what Zeus is basically doing is using the catapult as kind of a distraction for Janus while he ganks left lane, because, of course, Amazon Cobb is having a little bit of problems with Sheep Blanque. Zeus dies. I intend on making his death worth it. I intend on killing Sheep Blanque, and I do. And I also happen to know that Jormungandr has used his ult, so I know he's got no recourse here, so I go on ahead and stun him. Cleodna comes in. We kill him off. It's absolutely worth Zeus for 2. Good trade. Janus comes barreling through here with his ult. I'm waiting. A little surprised to see Hercules come through first. He retreats because this is obviously a potential 2v3. Janus actually decides not to come in. I'm just looking to poke out Hercules, again for very similar reasons as before. You know, he's already behind Cleodna. He's behind at 2 levels at this point, and if I can get him to go back, then that's great. At this point, right here, my move is... Actually, I don't need to pause this. I'm looking to try to psych him out, so I'm looking to try to initiate here on him. I'm looking to do something. I actually decide to dedicate to this. I'm hoping that maybe Cleodna will take the tower or something. Doesn't wind up happening. She winds up following me, which is not what I wanted. So now my new priority is getting her out, right? So I'm trying to distract them by running through the tower. I do catch the attention of Jormungandr and Hercules. Hercules blinks on me. Now, I think Hercules is going back to Fountain, but clearly the fact that Nerdy Mel was able to just kill Hercules, he clearly had not. Right, so at this particular point, I'm just going to now try to body block for Cleodna if she needs it. There's Janus. I'm trying to get her out. You know, I can't body block Janus, obviously. He's got portals. He's got the unstable vortexes. She does get out. It's fine. But it was definitely a moment of, like, I can't do anything to save you here. I was expecting She Blanca to come at her, and that's what I was going to body block for. I was not expecting the Janus, right? And for me to try to body block Janus is just asking for me to just die for no reason, because, again, I can't block Janus' shot, so even trying to body block isn't going to work, and without any mana, there's nothing I can do to slow him down or stop him anyways. So, I just tell her to retreat, and off she goes. Now, in the meantime, if you'll actually notice, the whole time we're doing this, right? The whole time we're doing this, Zeus is pushing down mid. The whole time we're fighting over here, Janus has come over, Zeus takes advantage, he takes the tower. That is great decision-making by Zeus. At this particular point, it's a 2v, potentially 4. Jormungandr, Janus, Hercules, and probably She Blanca. I think She Blanca was there at the start. Zeus knows that even him entering the field for a 3v4 is a really bad idea, so what he does is he capitalizes and goes for the mid tower. That is great, great decision-making on the Zeus's part, honestly. There was nothing he was going to do there to help us out. Potentially, yes, he could have thrown out an ult to discourage enemies from following Cleodna, but ultimately that would have not necessarily meant anything because it would have tipped off the enemies to the fact that, hey, he's nearby, and of course, Zeus has no escape, so he could potentially have been singled out and eliminated. So his decision to take the tower instead is the correct decision here, okay? So we take his damage buff. He's, of course, got his tier 2 tower. He doesn't really need me, in all honesty, at this point. He still has his tier 1. It's fine. I'm going to go gank left lane because, again, Amazon Cobb is still having a little bit of trouble, and it's because of that rough early game. That's more due to the team composition. So I'm rotating over. I'm looking to at least get She Blanca back, right? Just try to get him back up. Now, he disappears from my perspective. I don't notice on the minimap that he's right there until after Amazon Cobb actually engages him. And then I'm just going to go in. Amazon Cobb absolutely decimates him, which is fantastic, because now this signals to me as a support. What this signals to me is that Amazon Cobb no longer necessarily needs help with the 1v1s. He can take care of himself, right? I'm not really worried about AMC anymore. He's fine. What I'm going to try to do here is steal the red buff, but then I see Hercules walking away, and either it's already been taken or something. I'm going to counter-rotate initially, but then I realize that mid lane needs help, so I want to just stall this out a little bit, you know, help Zeus out a little bit. You know, those minions are gone. They are getting it ganked like I thought. I actually made a mistake there going for mid lane. I shouldn't have even bothered. I should have just been rotating over here earlier. Jormungandr will actually die here because I didn't rotate fast enough. I'm pretty sure he dies here. Does he... I thought he died. Nope, he doesn't die. Yes, he does die. He died to Janus, but if I'd rotated earlier, he would have lived, right? We do pick up Hercules in exchange. Again, Hercules at this point is 2 levels down. It's going to set him back even farther. But if I had rotated earlier, if I had counter-rotated like I was originally going to, before getting distracted by the random minion wave, he would have lived. And that's entirely on me for making the wrong choice, right? Now, Cleodna initiates on this. I'm not sure why at this point. I'm thinking maybe originally we're going to stall for the tower, but then I notice Zeus is gone, Jormungandr ults. There's nothing else we're going to do here, so we just leave. Okay? There's nothing else we're getting here, right? Zeus is falling back. Cleodna's looking for She Blanca, which I think is too close to the tower. He does, in fact, back up immediately. I go on ahead and initiate, wondering if Cleodna wants this. She doesn't really do anything with it, so I just walk away, right? And she's just covering my escape at this point. And then she leaves too, right? Because she isn't going to be able to get that without me. I thought she was going to go in. She stopped for the minions. She was just really trying to siphon experience off of the minion wave. I grab all my stuff, and then I see they're still fighting in left lane. Okay, a little surprised. I would have thought that Cleoda would have escaped by then, but, you know, whatever. She dies. I'm, at this point, going to try to get there in time to save Amazon Cobb. That is my chief priority right now, okay? Because I kind of assumed... I went back originally because I kind of assumed Cleoda would be able to get out, and I was incorrect. She stayed a little too long, I guess. So at this point, we're just trying to get the Scepter. I think we get the Scepter, and I'm just trying to slow down Jormungandr so Amazon Cobb can pick him up. I ult here so I can, you know, stun him. Amazon Cobb does come in. I don't realize until too late. Look, I have, like, most of the enemy team on me. This is a problem. The Loki was especially surprising. It's the Loki that convinces me to use Sprint. Then I see the other two come in, and I'm like, okay, let me see if I can bait them in. We've got, you know, our Jormungandr coming in. Zeus is at the oracles. Let's see if we can make something out of this. So I go on ahead and kind of casually initiate, and I'm kind of cautiously feeling out what the situation looks like here. I don't particularly like the situation. It looks like they're all leaving, so I call a risky call on the Gold Fury, but it should theoretically work, because theoretically they've all gone back. Now, the enemy Jormungandr sees us working on this really quick, and then Janus comes in, and he gets ulted by Jormungandr, tries to steal it with his ult. Fortunately, he doesn't time it right, and we get the Gold Fury. And then we kind of just initiate, because here's Sheep Blanca almost low, because what basically this means, right, when... There's two things that are a really important indication here. First off, the enemy Jormungandr kind of peeks his head out around here, so this tells me two things as a support. One, the enemy team knows we're on the Gold Fury now. Okay? Not great news, but survivable. Two, the possibility exists that the enemy team did not, in fact, go back to the fountain. They were on the retreat before for a reason. They weren't in the greatest of shape. I'm the only one half that on my team. Amazon Cobb's the only one without much mana on his... without much mana. The rest of our team is pretty fresh. Now, this is where it really clicks for me. The Janus coming in here, relatively fresh. This indicates to me that some people have gone back to Fountain, some people have not. So we take the Gold Fury, and I'm willing to initiate here because I'm pretty confident, and the Sheep Blanca confirms my suspicions. The Sheep Blanca confirms that they, in fact, are not fresh from the Fountain, and that they probably should have just gone back and let us have the Gold Fury. Right? So... we all, you know, go on to him. He gets killed by Amazon Cobb, and then he rage quits. Right, he rage quits shortly after this. We don't see Sheep Blanca again, and it's a shame. There he goes. And that's a shame because his team is actually not bad. The Hercules decision making wasn't bad. It's just that he can't recover from the deaths, really. And I see Hercules is in left lane. Right, I just saw Hercules pop up there. Yep, and that's what Zeus is talking about. He's worried about Hercules. He's worried about Hercules going on to AMC. AMC, at this point, apparently feels like a boss because he... originally, he felt like a boss because he was just kind of floating around. I thought he was going to go back in the lane. He backs. But he definitely felt like a boss originally, and then he was like, well, maybe not. But then... Hercules and Jormungandr gank Cleoda instead of attacking AMC, which is what we were expecting. She probably expected that too. She gets caught out and dies. That's fine. It happens, right? So I'm just looking to, you know, get some farm here. I'm not really looking for anything. I poke Janus a little bit here. I'm not really serious about killing him because obviously he can get away fairly easily. Zeus initiates in the jungle for some reason. So now I'm running to try to save him. And then I get stuck on the Loki thing because of where he generated that, which is really good gameplay by the Loki. And I was originally going to leave before my Jormungandr initiated, so now I'm trying to get him out, because this is a terrible fight, right? I'm going to at least try to kill the Hercules here. Get the stun, get all this damage on here. He gets out, right? I pursue this way too deep. I really shouldn't be here. I wasn't likely to get him, but, you know, that's me making a mistake. I try to do as much damage as I can. Now I'm trying to back out of here, heal up, and at this particular point, I'm just trying to get out of here. Now, why did I go back into the main lane? I don't know, honestly. It was a terrible decision. I should have stayed in the jungle. I probably would have lived if I'd stayed in the jungle. I made a mistake there. But on the plus side, you know, Jormungandr is able to almost kill Loki. He doesn't actually get to. It's a bit unfortunate, but, you know, close enough for government work. And then I switch over to see how AMC is doing against the Hercules, and he absolutely is winning against this. He just barely misses this kill. We get the, Cleodna gets our obelisk filled up. That's great news for us. Unfortunately, Amazon Cobb doesn't pick up the Hercules. It's fine. Hercules is far enough behind at this point that that's not really a big deal. Off I go. I've got my MP5 with my Fate Blessed Hoops now, so we're in a really good position. Off I go to go clear my buff camp, right? And here we are. Amazon Cobb's working on his farm, of course. And, you know, at this point, us winning is basically a foregone conclusion. I just want to talk a little bit more about kind of the end here, because we've only got 8 minutes left of this match. Really, well, actually, I think it's 7 minutes, because the end screen is something I also talk about. And that takes about a minute to get to. But at this particular point, I'm going over to Amazon Cobb, because I can see the Jormungandr leaving, right? Now, initially, I see Hercules, I'm rotating over to the right lane, but Jormungandr winds up not having any issues getting back. I see AMC is still pushing up left lane, so I decide, hey, look, at this point, I'm going to go help you. Jormungandr does not need help. I thought he was going to get pursued or rotated on or something. Nope, none of that happens. Jormungandr is fine. So I just come over here to make sure that Amazon Cobb is fine. He's way up here, right? So we start going onto the Phoenix. I doubt we're going to get this. I get kind of nervous there. Here comes, you know, Janos' ult. I want to get out of here. AMC gets ulted by Loki. He really dedicates himself to the Phoenix. One more shot, he would have taken it. If I'd tanked that for just one more shot more, that would have been fine. Maybe. Either way, I got to get out of here. Unfortunately, AMC died. I wasn't able to save him. I wasn't able to tank the Phoenix for long enough. I panicked and left, basically. But Zeus wants to initiate on this, so I go on ahead and start this fight. Now, I start this fight very specifically because we're ahead and we have one more person. Yes, we just lost AMC, but we're still going to be tied for people, so I'm okay with initiating here. And at this point, I'm just basically trying to keep Zeus alive just so he can do as much damage as possible, so that's really my goal right now. And just try to decrease protections and all that. You know, I go off of Zeus to go pursue Hercules. And now we're just trying to kill the Jormungandr here, get the enemy support out of the way. I body block for my Jormungandr, right? Trying to kill this guy. And then he just absolutely disappears on me. I use my ult in an effort to try to catch up to him and finish him off, but he's gone into who knows where. So I'm just pursuing my Jormungandr at this point to make sure he's okay. I see a fight going on in right lane. I don't know what that is, but whoever it is that's fighting Loki has the level advantage. So it's fine. I believe it's Cleodna, actually. No, it's not Cleodna. It's Amazon Cobb. So he's fighting the Loki, right? And I'm trying to figure out... No, it was just Loki fighting. Amazon Cobb's in mid. What am I looking at? Wait a minute. Yeah, no, that never was. Oh, it's a catapult. That's why I'm confused. Loki's focusing on a catapult. Even at the time, I thought it was Amazon Cobb. But there, I see now in the replay that Amazon Cobb is in mid lane. But anyways, I want to push up, because right now I see Cleodna on the left. There's Amazon Cobb in mid. There's Jormungandr in their jungle. I know my team is really getting, you know, aggressive and pushy here, so I'm trying to get up to that area as quickly as possible. Now, I stopped for the health buff because, again, no one needs my help immediately. They're actually backing off. If I had seen somebody get engaged in a fight, I would have dropped this and run for them, obviously, but everything seems fine now, so I go on ahead and drop this. I'm behind in golden experience, so this is kind of important for me compared to the Jormungandr, because the Jormungandr, of course, has been doing more killing and dying than I have. You'll see the scoreboard at the end of the match. And we're just clearing buffs at this point, right? And I see Loki in mid, so I'm like, okay, do we protect mid lane? Where's Loki going? It's kind of tough to tell with him. He's kind of nightmarish to keep track of. Jormungandr initiates on Loki. Okay. So we're going to have a fight here. And... you know, I'm just going to pop in here. I'm going to try to keep people alive. I'm going to do as much damage as possible, and I'm going to decrease protections. Unfortunately, Cleodna dies, but that just puts us at a 4v4. Right, I'm trying to keep the Hercules out because he's fairly dangerous. Look at the Loki really quick. Help take out... I actually killed the Janos. Zeus takes out the Jormungandr. Absolutely fantastic. Here's Hercules back in the fight, which he really should not have been. He dies to the Ormagander. It's an absolutely great time. I want the Fire Giant. Right now, there's only Loki alive, and he doesn't have a jungle stealing ult. He doesn't. He could try, but he'd have a really hard time getting this ult, right? So I am initiating on this. It is an absolutely glorious time. Fantastic. Here we go. Great. Fire Giant's dead. Lovely. Now, Cleodna here was trying to ask us to wait for her, but if we waited for her, then the enemy team would have respawned, and we would have lost the opportunity, and I say that right here, we would not have had as good an opportunity to take the Fire Giant again. She does understand. She says so right afterwards that it's not a problem. She must know that if we had waited for her, then probably we would have taken the Fire Giant either way, but we would not have been in as good a position to do so. It would have been a bit riskier for us to do so, right? Again, I don't see any allies in particular trouble, so I'm going to stop for my green buff. They're going for the Gold Fury. They didn't need me at this point in the game. They shouldn't. Amazon Cobb, of course, has, as you can see here, as you can see when I bring up the scoreboard, Amazon Cobb has the lifesteal he needs, which is why he is able to do that with the Gold Fury, right? Because he was probably tanking. He's got Devourer's Gauntlet, Leather Cowl, Atlantis Bow. This guy has crits and lifesteal out the wazoo. He had no issue tanking the Gold Fury, right? So we're taking out the damage buff here. I see Cleodna fighting Loki, and I see Amazon Cobb moving in on that. We're looking at our left lane push. There's Hercules for the counter rotation. I kind of expected that would happen. I need to get there quick, right? They're, picking on Amazon Cobb. I'm going to try to save him, heal him up, try to get some protections down. He dies, unfortunately. Now, at this point, I want to make it worth. I'm trying to kill this Janus, and he's going to try to use a portal. I stop this completely, get rid of him. Now I see Cleodna, she's winning against Hercules because she's got a higher level, so she's going to do a little bit more damage. I'm not too concerned. She does kill the Hercules, as I expected, and I'm just basically stalling him out because I'm seeing our Jormungandr in right lane, right? I'm trying to keep Jormungandr's attention here, and it's working. He's staying in this lane, and I want to keep his attention because he does have the ability to clear waves pretty quickly, so if I don't keep his attention, he's moving to right lane and preventing that Phoenix from falling, which is what I don't want. So no matter how long it takes me, I will stay here and keep his attention. We take the Phoenix. Now I'm stalling for the Zeus in mid lane, basically, at this point. It's the same reason, just different structure. He takes that, and now I'm pretty interested in going back, right? I'm pushing forward a little bit. It's not really worth it. I see my allies coming in. I decide to stay, right? So, here we go. We are, going on to the Phoenix. The Jormungandr is taking over distraction duty while I try to get these minions to take the Phoenix. Zeus comes in to help with this. Amen for that, because the minions weren't going to be able to do it. And the Jormungandr ults, and now I'm concerned. Are we going to really take this? What's going on here? I just will keep on tanking. Zeus just dedicates himself, so I do. And then I'm just trying to distract Janus at this point. Now I turn back around because Hercules is obviously on Zeus. We need to try to stop that. The enemy Jormungandr dies. The enemy Hercules looks like he's about to die, so I go back onto Janus. Right? And I'm just trying to take him out. And lo and behold, I'm able to do so. And that wipes out everyone on the team but the enemy Loki. Right? So at this point, I'm just trying to push this minion wave down because I know he has to defend something. In fact, he does pick this area. I'm trying to weaken him down. I see my allies coming in, so I'm just trying to slow him. I'm trying to weaken him. I'm not expecting to kill him. I accidentally steal the kill. That is the way it is. And my team kills the Sheep Blanque for revenge, and we take the Titan here. Now again, I want to mention that the Sheep Blanque leaving was why this team lost. And it is unfortunate, but I want you to, if you have anything to say, please commend these players for sticking it out despite their ADC leaving. Absolute heroes, really. Give out my commendations, and then I pause the recording here because you don't want to see me reporting the Sheep Blanque, but do know that I did report him for that because I was clearly a rage quit. I at least reported him. I don't know if anyone else in the match did. So I do want to talk a little bit about the build here. I am going with what I describe as my typical Guan Yu build, what I often build on him: Sovereignty, Pridwin, Fey Blessed, Hoops, Gladiator's Shield. I would have probably finished up with, given Amos and Cobb's grotesque amounts of lifesteal and the lifesteal across the board, I probably would have finished up with the Caduceus Shield here. The enemy Jormungandr, again, the enemy Jormungandr on the surface did okay. He has 4, 4, and 3, right? But look at his gold total. He has 11,000 gold compared to my 14,000. Now, yes, I was level 20. Yes, I had more kills and less deaths, but it really comes down to the reason why I have, less deaths. One of the reasons why I have less deaths is because I have Sentinel's Gift, and it's very important for supports to have either Sentinel's Gift or War Flag. These are things that are going to keep you in good mana, good health, for extended periods of time, right? So, there is that first off, okay? That is why it's so important to have Sentinel's Gift. It's just very important for you to have access to that gold as a support. Now, as for the rest of Jormungandr's build here, because we are talking about the support role, he does build Shogun's Kusari, right? It's the only part of his build that I'm going to stop for a moment and really criticize. His team did not need this, okay? Loki potentially could have used this to some extent. Loki was clearly at first attempting an auto attack build, so that's mildly understandable. Xyblonke, of course, left the game, but he obviously also uses auto attacks. Janus doesn't, Hercules doesn't. So the Janus building Shogun's Kusari here, and for reference, Shogun's Kusari doesn't increase Jormungandr's actual auto attack speed. It increases the rate at which his breath recharges. How useful you find that as a support is up to you. I don't personally build to increase that for Jormungandr, intentionally at least. Every once in a blue moon I'll build an item that'll increase that just because my allies happen to need an attack speed increase, but it's not for me, and the fact that he is building it partially to benefit himself is a little strange from a support standpoint, because basically at this point, Loki is, not doing well, and his auto attacks aren't likely to be that dangerous, and you're, of course, a support. You're not even supposed to be that dangerous in the first place, right? E-Staff, I do kind of question, not necessarily as an item, it's a perfectly fine item to build as a support. Whether or not he needed it at that point, at that particular juncture, without, having Xyblonke there, with his team being only a 4-man, and being behind, I'm not sure E-Staff was the correct choice. He probably should have gone with something with protections, both protections ideally, maybe Pridwin to finish off the cooldown to get 40% cooldown, maybe instead, say, Mantle of Discord for a huge spike in protections and 10% cooldown, something like that. I think E-Staff, while not necessarily a bad item in and of itself, at that point in the game, with him being behind, might not have been the best decision, right? Increasing your HP and MP isn't going to do you a whole lot of good if you only have 3 protection items and you're dying all over the place anyways, right? You're behind, you have a numbers disadvantage, you need the protections, not the health, right? And unfortunately, E-Staff does not provide protections. Okay? But beyond that particular specific, this is generally what I was thinking about when I was playing this match. Again, I'll be doing another Conquest match with Guan Yu, because I don't really feel like this fully encapsulates what a Guan Yu match really looks like. Again, it was a little easier than what you would normally want, because, of course, the Xyblonke Rage Quit. So expect another Guan Yu episode at some point in the near future. But be that as it may, thank you all very much for joining me. If you liked this, please like and subscribe. If you didn't, please ignore me. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, ideas, suggestions, requests, please leave them down in the comment section below. And thank you all very much for joining me, and have a great 24 hours.